today is June 10th, 2014. Now, I posted a crime tip to the FBI Crime Tips website, and I recorded doing that. And now I'm going to be posting publicly on the FBI's Facebook page to further prove my point that these bastards don't take complaints, don't recognize complaints, don't give a shit about complaints, ignore complaints, they stonewall complaints. And I'm seriously, my complaints are formal charges. And I don't take no as a fucking answer. If they can ignore my complaints, then I sure to hell can ignore their badges just as easily. If they can so fascistly ignore my complaints, then I can justify ignoring their goddamn badges. And I'm flat out I'm charging people with murders, for God's sakes. My family was a victim of a murder conspiracy. Now, I hope you notice I've already posted on the FBI's Facebook page right there. Man, I'm on the top of the people giving the reviews for the FBI's Facebook page, man. I'm on top of their review, man. Look at that low rating I give these bastards. Gee, about 3 months ago. Look at that, about 3 months ago. So see, I'm very serious about reporting crimes. I am very, very serious about this. This is the FBI, big bad alphabet agency soup, FBI's Facebook page. And there I am at the top of giving them a fucking review. And look at my review, and that's 3 months ago. So you can see I'm dead serious here. I'm dead serious. I mean it. Recognize my complaints, or so by God I deem you accessories to the very crimes I'm reporting. Now I have a shit ton of crimes that happened over a long period of time, and they were consecutive crimes. Got to correct my spelling here. Let me copy this real quick. This is my post that I'm posting on their FBI Facebook page. And I don't give a shit what story I'm posting on. I don't care. This is the FBI's Facebook page, and I am reporting crimes. And I expect it to be recognized and acted upon. No ifs, ands, ors, or excuses. If you people were victimized by somebody, you expect justice. Well, I'm demanding justice. I demand justice. Now I'm going to attempt to post this very long message on their Facebook page. I don't know if it's going to post or not. I'm going to hit enter right now. Unable to post comment. Try again soon. Sorry, there's a temporary problem with this post. Please try again in a few moments. Okay, you know what that means? I'll tell you what that means. That means my post is too long. So I'm going to have to shorten it. Okay, I'm going to have to shorten it quite a bit. to bear with me here. I got a very slow computer. It does nothing quickly. You have to save the changes to it, and then for some stupid reason I have to relaunch it. There, now I can copy it again. I've made my complaint substantially shorter. So I shall try again. Okay. Hit enter. And it posted. It posted. There's my name right there. There's my name. Here's a small JPEG of that one of the links that I'm providing. That's at the very top of my. Of course, everything you see right here that's in blue, not counting my name right there. Although I guess that's a link to my Facebook page, I guess. So I guess that is a link. My name actually is a link. It goes to my Facebook page. Right there, this is a link to evidence. This is a link to evidence. I'm explaining all this evidence. All these links are evidence to signed documents, of signed confessions of criminals, video evidence of criminals committing crimes and staging crimes, and audio evidence, such as I've received audio death threats where the perpetrators were bragging on audio death threats, because I caught all of them committing a murder. I caught several people in law enforcement, including some people on my wife's side of the family, committing a murder. And they were all laughing and bragging about it right after they committed a murder. And I caught all of them in the act on an audio recorder that I put in my wife's purse. So ever since I caught them in a murder on an audio recorder, they have been bragging on audio death threats. Now I have several different audio death threats, each of which are admissible. I'm only posting a link to the very shortest one. But they gave me several audio death threats. And so I posted links to audio death threats that they gave me. I posted links to email pages where, for instance, where the Multnomah County sheriffs were sending me emails taunting me. I'm literally reporting crimes to the county sheriffs, and they respond. Here's how the county sheriffs respond to me reporting crimes to them via email. Now keep in mind, I didn't have a phone at the time. I was severely disabled from being poisoned. I could hardly walk. I could hardly talk. I was constantly bleeding internally. I was, for the most part, bedridden. And the only kind of communication I really had was to send out emails. And I sent an email to the Multnomah County Sheriffs reporting a murder, reporting that several people committed a murder, were involved in a murder, and that I caught all their asses in the act on an audio recorder and all this shit. And they murdered somebody that was underage and stuff like that. And it's like their response to me was to taunt me. They ignored everything that was in my email and just responded by taunting me. So they're making it intentionally known. They don't give a rat's ass if I can prove anything. They don't. In other words, it's their way of making it known. They don't care. I caught several of their bros in law enforcement committing a murder. They just don't care. They're flaunting that fact. So I have screenshots of Multnomah County Sheriff sending me response emails like that. And I've got screenshots of hospital documents where the hospital refused to take a toxicology test, even though I'm telling them I was poisoned. I have a PDF copy of one of these links is a PDF copy of my wife's diary, along with some other written documents that she wrote, where she's essentially admitting to her affair with a cop. In her diary, she's essentially referring to her lover as a cop. But in other written documents that she wrote, she's trying to conceal the fact he's a cop. She's pretending he's a Walmart employee. Ironically, both my wife and her daughters were sleeping around with this cop and his partners. And one of our daughters got pregnant at the time by one of my wife's lover's partners in law enforcement. So they're not really hiding the fact from other people that my wife and daughters were sleeping around with a bunch of fucking pedophile cops that gave my wife permission to poison me to death. They're not really trying to hide this from other people. Everybody at Clackamas Walmart and everybody at Eastport Walmart knew my wife was having an affair with a cop, and knew our daughters were also palling around with and sleeping around with that cop and his buddies, and knew they were setting me up for crimes, and knew my wife was poisoning me. They knew that this cop was acting as a, even though my wife referred to him as such at the beginning of their affair. She referred to him as such.
But he's not by any measure of the word what I would refer to as an exact twin, but he is a close look-alike. And he altered, he's a brunette and I'm a blonde. Well, he dyed his fucking hair after his affair with my wife started. He dyed his hair blonde so he could impersonate me. And this was open knowledge at Eastport Walmart and Clackamas Walmart. And in both of those stores is where my wife and her sister and our oldest daughter worked, in both of those stores. So they were not hiding their sexual relations with a bunch of cops, and they weren't hiding the fact that one of those cops was setting me up, and that cop was acting as a double. Everybody at Eastport, when they made it known to everybody at Eastport Walmart in 2005 that they were doing this, and they were recruiting people there to lie for them. And since it was people in law enforcement that was doing this, people at Eastport Walmart just kind of joined into it all, and just they I don't know how to explain it. When a bunch of cops get together and they decide they're going to frame somebody, they vilify the living crap out of whoever it is they're framing. So they were vilifying me behind my back. They're sleeping around with my wife and daughters. So my wife and daughters were vilifying me behind my back. And because of this, nobody cared that I was a victim. So they were literally bragging and flaunting the fact to everybody at Eastport Walmart that they were setting me up, and that they wanted everybody there to lie for them and stuff like that. And management at Eastport Walmart, hey, they're buddies to people in law enforcement, and they do anything law enforcement wants them to. So management allowed cops to hang out with Eastport Walmart with the female employees back there, and they were even having sex back there and shit like that. So this is not a hidden thing that they were doing. A lot of people knew about it. Now, when I discovered this, when I literally caught them in the act, I didn't just catch my wife hooking her daughters up with this cop and find out that he dyed his hair blonde so that he could impersonate me. Not only did I catch that, I caught them doing this while they were in a group of over a dozen Walmart employees. because those employees were having a manager-employee meeting. And this cop and my wife and her daughters, my wife and her daughters work there. And this cop is with them. And when I caught them together, this cop and my wife and her daughter took off together. The three of them took off together down an aisle. And I'm just in shock and awe and just dumbfounded at the fact that, they're not even hiding it. My whole family just turned against me. Not only did I lose my wife, not only is my marriage just utterly dead and over with, but Jesus Christ, I've lost my daughters to this shit. And here I am discovering the fact that this is open knowledge at Eastport Walmart. So I'm not only catching them hooking up with a cop that's acting as a double of me, I'm finding out at the same time that it was open knowledge at Eastport Walmart. And I was in shock. I mean, literally a state of shock. And I just kind of walked down a different aisle all by myself and just kind of stood there. I was just in shock. My mind was just racing over what I just witnessed. And as I'm standing there, this Walmart manager employee meeting that was taking place ended because of this situation. And the group of Walmart employees and managers did not disperse to go to work, and instead they're all standing around talking about what just happened. And they're all saying shit like, they're all looking over at me, and they're about 25 feet away from me, and they're all looking over at me and they're saying shit like, does he know? Did he find out? Is there going to be a fight? And they're all laughing and shit. So it's amusing to them. It's amusing to them. So not only did I discover this, this was in April of 2005. Not only did I discover that my wife and daughters were helping the police to set me up, and that they were both sleeping around with cops. I discovered that this cop that my wife's sleeping with dyed his hair blonde because he's acting as a double. And I discovered at the same moment why my wife and everybody in that store was referring to this cop by the nickname Double Click. Now, I already knew of his nickname. My wife admitted he was a twin to somebody when she first mentioned him. She just neglected to mention that he's a twin of me. So she was having fun the entire time during her affair, hinting to the fact that I'm being set up. And my wife and everybody at Walmart, Eastport Walmart, was referring to this cop by the nickname Double Click. Well, when I caught them at Walmart with these Walmart employees and literally catching and discovering everything all at one time, I was in a complete, total, utter state of shock. I knew damn well I just uncovered a murder conspiracy. And I feared for people's safety, and I didn't know who's involved fully and who's not involved, who needs to be warned, who do I need to be wary of. I literally took 4 days to think about it before I decided, okay, I need to try to warn people. I'm going to have to try to warn people. So I made a phone call trying to warn a relative. And that relative made it known to me in no uncertain terms that they were involved in it. And an hour later, I was poisoned by my wife. She poisoned my coffee with antifreeze. I don't know how TV portrays poisonings. I don't know how movies portray poisonings. I can tell you right fucking now, to be poisoned with antifreeze is no different than being shot by a fucking gun. You're debilitated. It's debilitating. It is debilitating. Try
try to get up and fight after you're shot. Guess what?
You can't. Well, guess what? It's no damn different when you're poisoned. Guess what? You not only can you not walk around, you can't even talk. You can't even scream in pain. People that you see people get shot, they're screaming in pain. Guess what? When you're poisoned, you can't even scream.
I couldn't even scream. They had me severely debilitated, and I was surrounded by, guess who? My wife and daughters. And what do? They're all smiles, and they pretend nothing's wrong. And they had me debilitated so badly I couldn't leave the apartment.
And if I could manage to leave the apartment, I most certainly couldn't form a sentence to explain to somebody that I needed help. And I did not have a phone.
Two weeks later, I'm still severely debilitated. And this is 2 weeks after she first poisoned me. My wife bragged to our daughters that everybody at Walmart now gave her a nickname. And her daughters, with smiles on her face, and their daughters are in their late teens. Adult. One was an adult. Another one was almost an adult. And the youngest one was, I don't know, she was like 15 at the time. So they're all, they're adults and in their late teens. And she bragged to her daughters 2 weeks after she poisoned me that she now has a new nickname that everybody at Walmart gave her. It's already open knowledge with my wife's daughters and even with me that everybody at Walmart was calling this cop by the nickname Double Click because he's a twin to somebody. Well, 2 weeks after my wife poisoned me, my wife said to her daughters, everybody at Walmart gave me a new nickname. And her daughters were all grinning and shit. And they're like, oh, what's your nickname? And she told them Dash. And our daughters, I'm in the same apartment, I can hear them talking. And our daughters gave their approval, oddly enough, of that nickname. And my wife, Joan Wager, started dancing and spinning around in the middle of the living room after her daughters gave their approval of her nickname. Now you need to understand there was a whole lot of hinting going on back and forth. Our daughters knew my wife was cheating on me with a cop. They knew the dude was acting as a double to set me up, which is what the nickname was all about in the first place. It's how they communicated with one another. It was how my wife introduced her daughters to this cop, and it was how my wife made it known to her daughters that he's acting as a double, that he is acting as a double. So they used well, after she poisoned me, she bragged to her daughters. Everybody at Walmart was calling her by the nickname Dash. And her daughters gave their approval of that nickname. In other words, they're giving their approval to murder me. And my wife started dancing about that in the living room. Now, because my wife and our daughters were sleeping around with cops, the Portland police and the Multnomah County Sheriff made damn sure no matter where I turn to, I cannot get help.
When I went to the hospital, they covered it up. They refused to take a toxicology test. The doctors pretended to not know what's wrong. Excuse me, poisoning symptoms? Excuse me, a fucking vet can recognize antifreeze poisoning in a dog or a cat. Okay? So don't tell me a doctor can't recognize antifreeze poisoning. Bullshit. Police officers, when I went to the hospital, police officers would show up right after I showed up and was taken into an ER room. Police officers would show up and would talk with my doctor out in the hallway while I'm in the ER room. And the police would simply label me as a bad guy. And they would say this repeatedly until the doctor gets the hint to not help me. So I can tell you flat out, cops and their girlfriends and anybody else that is involved in committing crimes for police, they love to hint. Hinting is their favorite form of communication. It's how they make things known to people. They made it known to the doctors by hints to not help me. And because of it, my doctor refused to help me. My doctor refused to take a toxicology test. My doctor would just order an x-ray to be taken. Excuse me, I have all the symptoms of being poisoned, and the doctor fucking takes an x-ray. That's enough to know they're covering up a poisoning. When you're exhibiting signs of being poisoned and the fucking doctor just orders a fucking x-ray and ignores everything I say and doesn't put down in writing the symptoms I'm describing to the doctor, then they're covering up a poisoning. So because of police influence with doctors, they covered it up. Now I have just recently proved on video, and it's the link that's at the very bottom down here. The date today is the 10th of June 2014. Well, in June 1st, which is just 10 days ago, I caught on video a female sting operative that is renting an apartment below us. There's multiple sting operatives renting apartments around me. They deem me to be a high threat because they know damn well I'm more than happy to act in self-defense. So they deem me a danger to their asses because of it. So they have me surrounded by their fucking whore-ass sting operatives. Now, the apartment that's next door to me, that's rented by the Portland Police Department. They maintain, that's where police officers, undercover police officers with badges, but are faking and pretending to be tenants under the bullshit pretense of a sting operation, are right next door. They're the muscle. They're the muscle that's right here. They're the ones with the guns. They're the ones with the badges, and they're here in case I decide I should act in self-defense. So they want to keep muscle with guns nearby just in case I decide to exercise my right to self-defense. While the rest of the apartments surrounding mine are essentially civilian operatives. In other words, people that are either related to law enforcement or people that are buddies to people in law enforcement or people that are girlfriends to people in law enforcement. And that's what civilian sting operatives are, essentially. And they do pretty much whatever the fuck law enforcement wants them to do. They help law enforcement frame people. They stage crimes for law enforcement. They'll back up complaints on anybody law enforcement wants framed for a crime. And these civilian operatives will stage crimes and help police in framing people. And they do it all under the pretense of a sting operation. Gee, didn't you all know that police are perfectly free to recruit civilians into sting operations? You all didn't know that? You know what that means, don't you? That means police and sheriffs and any other law agency in this goddamn fascist USA country is free to recruit all their relatives and their buddies and their girlfriends into helping them frame people. That's what it fucking means. Well, I caught the civilian sting operatives that ran the apartment down below me, setting me up for their video surveillance, and I happened to catch them on video. And the reason I caught them was because every time I leave this apartment, I'm disabled. I'm on SSI. I have to leave once a month to go to the bank and to go grocery shopping, and I have to buy enough groceries to last me for a month because I am disabled. I can't get around very well. It's not easy for me to get around very well. So, and they know my routine and schedule. Since they're a sting operation and they have my apartment surrounded and they have me under illegal video surveillance, they know my schedule. They know when I leave the apartment. And I usually leave on the 1st of the month or, you know, around that time to go to the bank and go grocery shopping. So this sting operative down below, each and every fucking time I leave, literally places herself in front of me every freaking time I go down the stairs. Now I'm on the 2nd floor in this apartment building, and I have to go down a certain stair to leave this apartment building in order to go someplace. Well, this sting operative places her fascist ass in front of me every freaking fucking time I go down the goddamn stairs. It's predictable, and because it's predictable, it's catchable. I expected her to do this, and she usually has brats with her when she does this. Now, because of her behavior, because of the repeated routine that she involves herself in, she's essentially made it known to me through her own actions that she's a sting operative and she's setting me up, and that she deliberately places children in front of me as I go down the stairs. And I already know why, because they're doing it for video surveillance. Because they're setting me up as a pedo. They had my wife and daughters on their side to lie for them, and they were using a cop as a double. Okay, so all they have to do is make me look like a bad guy on video and then kill me, and then they can just vilify the crap out of me and then have short video segments where I'm going down the stairs and they have video of children at the bottom of the stairs. Now keep in mind, this woman places these children there. Now I caught this bitch in the act doing it. She literally stands about 8 to 15 feet away from the bottom of the stairs with a child. And then at the moment I take my first step down the stairs, that's when the female sting operative takes that child to the bottom of the stairs. So the sting operative literally places the child at the bottom of the stairs as I'm going down the stairs. Now, before I left my apartment, I turned on my cell phone camera because I was expecting some sort of street theater performance from this lady / sting operative. Now, after I caught this lady placing this child in front of me and caught this lady going extremely slowly because I am disabled, I cannot go down those stairs very quickly. I'm using a cane. She was trying to time it. Now, she's not disabled, but she is deliberately going slower than molasses. She was moving slower than I was moving because she wants to get her child as close to me as possible for their video surveillance. So she was going deliberately slow. Well, as I reached the bottom of the stairs and turned and walked away from these people, this sting operative slash whore for the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs slash whoever's responsible for that poor child, she labeled me as a pedo as I was heading to the store. Now keep in mind, that's what this link is for right here. Now, I already knew this woman is a sting operative for the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs. I already knew. I can identify a sting operative very easily because sting operatives don't act normally. Sting operatives perform for video surveillance. And because of it, they don't behave in normal ways. They behave as though they're performing for somebody's camera. That's how they behave. And they try to position people near their targets. Since they were using a double to frame me as a pedo, and they had my wife and our daughters to lie for their asses, they're trying to make me look bad on video surveillance. So this female sting operative that's in the apartment down below me deliberately and intentionally places children at the bottom of the stairs as I try to leave my apartment. And I have no choice but to take these stairs to leave my apartment. And this woman times it every fucking time. So because she's done this repeatedly and she's done this multiple times, I was expecting it to happen. So I turned on my cell phone camera before I even went out my door, which is more than enough to prove I expected it to happen. Now, I've already posted on the FBI's crime tip webpage, and I posted a video of that on my blog on the internet, on my WordPress blog. And now I'm posting these crimes on the FBI's Facebook page. Now, I'm not done. Guess what, people? I'm not done. Gee, what story is this I'm even posting on? This one didn't work because it was too long. I had to shorten my complaint. Some stupid ass story I could give a rat's ass about. But blah 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 blah. I'm not even gonna read that. You guys want to read that? You go right ahead. I could care less. Give me something else here. Here's something. Who the hell is this guy? I don't know. I could give a rat's ass. I'm reporting multiple crimes. I'm reporting a serial killer slash poisoner slash whore for the Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs. Bam! There. Now this one's posted. There. Any more stories I could post on? Oh boy, there's more. All right. Let's make myself known here on the FBI's Facebook page. I'm reporting formal charges, motherfuckers. Formal charges. These are formal charges, asshole. My complaints are formal charges. I'm backing it up. I put my name to my complaints. This is called backing up a complaint. This is how you back up a complaint and document it and prove it. Sick and tired of my 911 calls being covered up. Oh, here's something else I can complain on. Here. You have. Oh, the director Comey discussed the Bureau's priorities yesterday before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Who gives a rat's fucking shit? The Portland Police and Multnomah County Sheriffs are a bunch of poisoners and womanizers, and I caught their fucking asses in a goddamn murder. Now take a goddamn complaint. Goddamn fascist fuck piece of shit.
5 Chinese military hackers charged with cyber espionage against blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? The Portland police and the Multnomah County sheriffs are a bunch of pedos. They pay their civilian sting operatives with children to gang stalk people and to place their brats and to direct their brats for video surveillance purposes, which means Portland police and Multnomah County sheriffs are guilty of corrupting minors. Police sting operations are using minors in their operations, and gee, that means they're guilty of corrupting minors. Go direct your brat some more. Goddamn fucking piece of shit there. Bam! Yeah, read my fucking name, motherfucker. This is a backed up complaint, asshole. Fallen agent, profile, Steve Shaw. Well, you know what? People like you, Steve Shaw, people like you frame people. You have so many goddamn civilian operatives that lie for you motherfuckers and set people up for you motherfuckers that you all just don't give a shit when you're accused of a crime. Now let me remind you what your civilian operatives that whore themselves out to the Portland police and the Multnomah County sheriffs are guilty of. There, have some of that. This is a formal fucking complaint, asshole. Take the complaint. Take a complaint, fascist fuck motherfucker. God, you look like a fucking Nazi, man. Fucking fascist son of a bitch. Take that complaint. Ooh, just I don't like the way these fuckers look. They look. I don't even care what the story is about. I care less. I'm reporting crimes. Take my complaint. I'm disabled. I'm sitting here bleeding internally from being poisoned repeatedly and cannot get help at a hospital because of police influence. Bam! Now I'm reporting fucking crimes. Keep in mind, people, this is, I'm scrolling back up, right there. This is the FBI's Facebook page. I'm very serious. I'm reporting fucking murders. These sting operatives were murdering people. They weren't just targeting me. I was a poor sap they kept debilitated by repeatedly poisoning me while they were setting me up for their crimes. But I am not their only target. Officer Eric Carlson is the cop, that Portland police officer that was having an affair with my wife, Joan Wager. And him and his partner, John Ray, and he has many more partners that were involved. But him and his partner, Officer John Ray, physically broke into my home on March 26, 2007. And they had several female officers and a couple of several female civilians helping them with this break-in because they were staging crimes and committing crimes, and they were documenting the crimes they were committing using photogenic photos. And the reason they were doing this was because Officer Eric Carlson was dressed like me that morning, with his hair dyed blonde like mine that morning, and he was fucking posing as a double in my daughter's bedroom. And my wife helped sneak those two officers into our home through her bedroom window. Their break-in woke me up. I was asleep on the couch in the living room by the front door. I was severely debilitated, bleeding internally. I was weak from blood loss. I was poisoned repeatedly and severely debilitated while their break-in woke me up.
Thinking I was catching my wife in her affair with this armed cop, I took my audio recorder and I turned on my audio recorder and put it in my wife's purse, and I laid back down on the couch and pretended to still be asleep, thinking I'm catching my wife in her affair with this armed cop that I knew broke into my home to be with her. Now, I didn't realize at that very moment they were setting me up. I realized after I turned on the audio recorder and put it in my wife's purse and then laid back down on the couch, I realized after that they were in our daughter's bedroom. Because right after I laid back down on the couch, my wife and her fuck buddy, the cops, came out of our daughter's bedroom and they went straight into my wife's bedroom. And then they were whispering to one another. So I discovered after I turned on the audio recorder, they were in our daughter's bedroom. Now, keep in mind, I'm aware of the time this occurred, and I'm aware that at any minute, my wife was going to be leaving for work. It was almost time for my wife to go out the door to leave for work. So I was expecting at any minute for her to leave. So I continued to act like I didn't know, that I continued to act like I was asleep and just let my audio recorder document what they're doing. Now, these people committed a murder, and they were setting me up for it. And Officer Eric Carlson and Officer John Ray were setting me up for a fucking murder. My wife and our youngest daughter was helping them. Officer Eric Carlson was posing for photogenic photos in our daughter's bedroom. And Officer John Ray was getting it on photogenic photos along with a female detective named Erica. Her last name, I don't know what the hell her last name is. I can tell you what she looks like. She's tall, she's blonde. She acts like she's stuck up. She kind of looks like a retired porn star. That's what she looks like. She was on the outside of the apartment, and she was taking photogenic photos of Officer Eric Carlson sitting on our daughter's bed from the outside of the apartment, while Officer John Ray and Officer Eric Carlson himself were taking photogenic photos from the inside of the apartment. And our daughter was voluntarily posing for them and performing for them at their direction, just like a bunch of goddamn directors of a movie. Well, they had another person in that room that I did not get to see. They killed that person. It was a female. The only clues I have as to who that person was is based off of what I caught on that audio recorder. These people talked about the female they murdered on the drive to Clackamas Walmart after they left my apartment. My wife took her purse with her when she left our apartment to go to Clackamas Walmart to work. Her fuck buddies in law enforcement went with her. On the drive to Walmart, Officer Eric Carlson was asking my wife for help with the female murdered victim's body. He said her name was Jessica. They also made mention of a missing runaway after they got to Clackamas Walmart. They said something to the effect of they were talking about a missing runaway. And they mentioned the female's name, and the first name was different than Jessica's. I can't remember what the hell the first name was because I was so badly poisoned back then. I heard it on the audio recorder, but I can't remember what the first name was. But it's on the original audio recording, the first and last name of the missing runaway they were referring to. They said the first and last name. I remember the last name of this runaway because after I forgot this female's first name, I realized my memory is really fucked because they poisoned me so badly. So I wrote down this woman's last name so that I wouldn't forget. Her last name was Hunter. I can't remember what the first name was, but they said the first name. And they said this at Clackamas Walmart. Now, when my wife and her buddies and her lovers in law enforcement got to Clackamas Walmart that morning, they bragged to my wife's sister. My wife's sister's name is Vicky Rosales. And she was waiting in the Clackamas Walmart parking lot for them all to arrive. Now, she already knew what they were doing that morning. She was a part of it. She wasn't there, but she was a part of it in the sense that she knew what they were going to do. So when they met up with my wife's sister at Clackamas Walmart, they were not telling her about all this as though she doesn't know what's going on. They were talking to her as though she is a partner in all of it, and were explaining to her how it all went. And the whole time they were laughing and bragging and shit, and cracking jokes and stuff. And they were laughing and crap, and they were bragging. They were bragging that they were setting me up as a pedophile. Officer John Ray flat out said it. He flat out said, they're setting me up as a pedo. He flat out said this. My wife at this time, Joan Wager, she was asking Eric Carlson if he was naked for it. And Officer Eric Carlson denied being naked for it. He's not denying he did it. He's just denying that he was naked for it. Okay? And John Ray then admitted that Officer Eric Carlson was sitting on our daughter's bed. So they're admitting they were in our apartment. And they admitted they got pictures of his dick. Keep in mind, they're in celebration mode at this point. When they reached Clackamas Walmart and they started explaining to my wife's sister how everything went, they're in celebration mode. Okay? So they weren't hiding any of this, of what they did from my wife's sister. And they were having fun and basically in a celebration mood. They were in an extremely good mood. And laughing and shit. They admitted they got it all on photogenic. They admitted to that. And they admitted that before they left my apartment, they went into the kitchen and they poisoned my coffee pot and my coffee cup. And my wife chimed in at that point and laughed and bragged that she helped them with that. And their superiors in law enforcement around this time showed up. The people that these officers report to and take orders from showed up. And the first thing these detectives said to their subordinates. They said they wanted the photogenic photos that they ordered their subordinates to make. In other words, their superior showed up to pick up the photogenic photos they took of the illegal child porn crap they were making, and that they were using Officer Eric Carlson as a double. And this Officer Eric Carlson's partner Erica, who was helping, she was the officer that was outside of the apartment, and she was taking photogenic photos through the window. She spoke up and said to her superior that they got it all on photogenic. In other words, she's acknowledging she got what they ordered them to do, what the superiors ordered them to do. And then she said that they needed 630 taken off of her. And they're referring to our daughter, Kaylee, our youngest daughter, Kaylee, and they're referring to the murdered female victim that they killed. And the superior her superior, this detective, asked her why, and she admitted that Officer John Ray broke in there. And Officer John Ray himself spoke up, and he fucking admitted. He's admitting he broke in there. Because he said he couldn't. He's admitting as in way of explaining. He explained why he broke in there, because he said he couldn't go through the front door. Now I'm going to tell you why he couldn't go through the fucking front door. Because I'm asleep in that apartment in the living room on the couch right by my fucking front door. Well, at this point, the front doors to Clackamas Walmart was unlocked, so all the Walmart employees and all the female officers that were a party to this all entered the store, and they all headed into the back of Clackamas Walmart towards the break room and towards the back of the store where only employees can go. While the men stayed outside in the front of the store, did not go inside the store because they still had a body to get rid of. Because they took the body with them when they left the apartment. Officer John Ray and Officer Eric Carlson, after they committed the murder, they carried the body out the window. Officer John Ray took the body out the window. My wife and Officer Eric Carlson proceeded to plant evidence in my home after that. And then they went straight, and then they planted copies of their child porn that they made onto our computer. And remember, Officer Eric Carlson's dressed like me and has his hair dyed blonde like mine, so he's acting as a double. And then my wife and Officer Eric Carlson went straight to the kitchen. Now keep in mind, I'm wide awake on the couch, pretending to be asleep and hearing their movements, listening to what they're saying when they whisper to one another, and I'm aware of their movements in the apartment. I'm aware that they booted up the computer and that they put something on it, and I'm aware of the fact they entered the kitchen and they tampered with the coffee pot. I could hear them in there tampering with the coffee pot. It's only about 15 feet away from where I'm sleeping on the couch, and I wasn't asleep. And my audio recorder was just 5 fucking feet away from them when they poisoned the coffee pot. And my wife was pointing out to Officer Eric Carlson, which cup is mine, and shit. And she was helping him to poison the coffee pot. And she was helping him by telling him which cup is mine. And she planted poison in the fucking kitchen. And when they got done in the kitchen, that's when my wife grabbed her purse, and the both of them walked past me thinking I'm still asleep, and the both of them walked out the front door together. When they walked out the door, it was 6:14 a.m. March 26, 2007. I immediately looked at the clock the moment they went out the door. Well, when they got to fucking Walmart, and they're bragging that they were setting me up as a pedo, and that Officer Eric Carlson was posing for photogenic photos, and that they got pictures of his dick and shit, and that they poisoned my coffee pot and shit, and they had their superiors show up. They're acknowledging there was a female victim. Now keep in mind, on the drive to Walmart, while my wife and Officer Eric Carlson were driving to Walmart, Officer Eric Carlson was asking my wife for help with the female's body. He named this woman as Jessica. Later that morning, around 9, but sometime between 9 and 9:45 a.m. that morning, they were talking about a missing runaway. And they named this missing runaway. Now, I don't know if they were setting me up for an old murder at that point. Or if that's the person they killed that morning. I don't know. I don't know who the hell these people are, but these are the people they were talking about. Man, my wife and Officer Eric Carlson were planning their fucking pre-wedding party around that time. They were in celebration mode the entire morning, the entire day at Clackamas Walmart. Officer Eric Carlson was in Clackamas Walmart that entire day with my wife. That entire day, everybody in Clackamas Walmart knew he was acting as a double that morning. My wife and her sister, Vicky Rosales, were laughing and bragging in the break room to Clackamas Walmart employees about how easy it is for Officer Eric Carlson to impersonate me. They were describing how he copies my mannerisms and shit. And they were laughing and bragging about it and cracking jokes. One of the female Walmart employees asked Officer Eric Carlson what his name was again, because she forgot. And Officer Eric Carlson and my wife's sister, Vicky Rosales, spoke up saying Eric, for Eric Carlson. And then right after they said that, my wife chimed in saying, Terry. And they all broke out laughing. Vicky Rosales broke out laughing. Officer Eric Carlson broke out laughing. My wife broke out laughing. The Clackamas Walmart employees in that break room broke out laughing. So this was fucking open knowledge at Clackamas Walmart. Open knowledge. They knew damn well they were setting me up that morning. Now, the only thing that my audio recorder did not catch was these officers and my wife and her sister actually admitting they committed a murder to Walmart employees. But when my wife and Officer Eric Carlson were alone together, then they were fucking admitting to a goddamn murder, and my audio recorder is catching it. Now, everybody in that store knew they were setting me up as a pedo, and they knew Officer Eric Carlson was acting as a double. I do not think that Clackamas Walmart employees at that time were aware that these officers committed a murder, because they made no verbal mention of it that my audio recorder caught. Based on everything I heard on that audio recorder, I'm aware that it was open knowledge that in that entire store that they knew I was being framed by people in law enforcement, and that Officer Eric Carlson was having an affair with my wife, and that he was acting as a double so that they could set me up as a pedo. That was open knowledge. I'm not so certain if everybody at Clackamas Walmart knew that these officers committed a murder and was setting me up for a murder. That I don't think they knew. And the reason why is when my wife and Officer Eric Carlson were actually talking about the females they murdered, they made damn sure nobody else was around them when they did. In other words, when they were alone together, just my wife and Officer Eric Carlson, then they were referring to the female they murdered. Now, after these officers and my wife and her sister recruited everybody in the clothing department and everybody in the shoes department at Clackamas Walmart to lie for them. They spent that whole morning bragging, celebrating, and recruiting people at Clackamas Walmart. And by 9:30 that morning, they had everybody in the clothing department and in the shoes department to lie for them. My wife, Joan Wager, worked in the clothing department at the time, and my wife's sister, Vicki Rosales, worked in the shoes department at the time. So that should give you an indication as to how they recruited several people from two different departments to lie for them. Now, they were printing flyers that entire time, up to around 9:30 in the morning. Basically from the time they got there, which was around 6:30, 6:35 in the morning, and entered the back of the store. From that point forward, they were printing flyers, and they were printing flyers pretty much nonstop until 9:30, and they were using Clackamas Walmart office printers. Their printers were pretty much right outside the break room, near the time clocks and shit, where people check the schedules and people clock in and out for work, and it's like right near the break room area. So anybody that either clocks in or clocks out or goes to the break room or leaves the break room has to pass them while they're printing these flyers. Okay. So, like I said, this was open knowledge, and they were printing flyers giving me the blame for the crimes they just set me up for. And they just got done using Officer Eric Carlson as a double. So this is how I know that this is open knowledge, and that a shit ton of people was involved, and a shit ton of people agreed to lie for them. Now keep in mind, these officers and my wife and her sister, they were lying to Walmart employees. They're not admitting to these Walmart employees they just got done committing a murder, and they were setting me up to get the blame for that. They weren't making that admission, but just about everything else they were admitting to. They're admitting that they were setting me up. Everybody in that store knew my wife and our daughters were sleeping around with people in law enforcement. Two of our daughters at that time worked in that store. Our oldest daughter, Shauna, she worked in that store. What department I can't say, because she would go one day she'd work one department, next day she'd work in a different department. So she was sort of a floater in that store where she just went wherever she was needed. And our daughter Megan, she was working not for Walmart, but she was working in the store for Subway. There was a Subway inside Clackamas Walmart, and she was working in the Subway. So she was serving food to people in that store. So my wife, her sister, and two of our daughters worked in that store. And my wife and her sister and her daughters were sleeping around with and palling around with these cops. And everybody at Walmart knew about it. And they knew that they were setting me up. They know their motives and everything. My wife was having an affair with a cop and everything. This was personal. And they spent a great deal of time vilifying me behind my back. They already had me severely debilitated. I was already near death's door at the time as it was. So in a way, they treated it like, well, we just got to get rid of him. You know, he's going to die anyway, so blah, 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 blah. You know, that's how they all treated the situation. That's how they all kind of viewed the situation. They already poisoned me. They've already destroyed my life. I'm constantly bleeding internally. I was constantly hanging on for dear life, just trying to survive. And nobody there knew me. Nobody there cared that I was a victim. And they spent so much time vilifying me behind my back that, everybody, they just all joined into it. And these officers are pals with management at Walmart. So it's nothing for these officers to take over Clackamas Walmart office and to start using their printers to print flyers. So Clackamas Walmart, in its official capacity, was literally helping my wife and her fuck buddies in law enforcement to set my ass up for a murder that my wife and her fuck buddies in law enforcement are guilty of. Around 9:45 to 10:30 that morning, my wife and Officer Eric Carlson were both having sex. So they were celebrating, and they were both having sex in the back of that store, somewhere near the lockers. I think they were in. I'm based on how it sounds, based on how close they are to the lockers when it happens, because my wife's purse with my audio recorder in it is in her locker. Based on how close they were to the lockers, I have to presume that they were in the coat room, which is behind their lockers at Clackamas Walmart. And they were having sex and basically celebrating their successful mission to set my ass up. And they're celebrating the fact that they got a shit ton of people at Clackamas Walmart to lie for them after they set me up for a fucking murder. So they're celebrating. And during their sex, once again, there's nobody else around at this point. There's no other talking going on. There's nobody else around. My wife started talking about the details of the murder they committed. She was asking Officer Eric Carlson if he got to be the one to kill her. Now keep in mind, Officer Eric Carlson and Officer John Ray were in our daughter's bedroom, and they were posing for photogenic photos. Now they carried something out my wife's bedroom window after they left our daughter's room and they went into my wife's room. They were carrying something out that window. Now keep in mind, my wife, while she's having sex with Officer Eric Carlson, is discussing the female that they murdered. And she's trying to get from him during this time, during this point. At this time, in other words, it's an orgasmic moment for Joan Wager. She wanted to know which one got to kill the female. They referred to her as her. And Officer Eric Carlson answered her question by being more vigorous in his lovemaking. So he didn't say a fucking word. He might have nodded or something. I don't know. I can tell you based on what's on the audio recording that the dude was being much more vigorous in his lovemaking, and my wife was much more enjoying what was happening at that point forward. So that should give you a little bit of an idea of what law enforcement and their whores are like, and what kind of mentalities they have. Oh, gee, you wonder why I can go on the FBI's fucking Facebook page and just blast my goddamn complaint over their fucking internet and not give a fuck if they charge me with something? I just proved they fucking used a double to set me up for a fucking murder, idiot! I ain't gonna give a fuck about court. I'm done. Fucking pieces of shit.